I think that's a lot of the reason people are like dissatisfied with gaming these days, is the genres were being created before. Now they're already created, and everybody has to now min-max each one of the genres. Do you think there's a particular reason Blizzard refrains from following the D2 design? Maybe it's just nostalgia speaking, but they got it right 20 years ago. Because I think, like, okay, we could say that, right? But then what do we actually mean when we say that? So it's like, follow the design of D2. Okay, what exactly do you want them to do? I think people wanted Diablo 4 to basically be not re-innovation, but to be a massive extension of the ARP genre. They wanted it to be a D2 level up upgrade, and that's just not going to happen. I don't know if anyone is going to take the ARPG genre and just bring it to the next level. I would say PoE 2 isn't even like the next level and completely fundamentally different. It has all of the things that people already want in ARPGs. It's not new stuff, it's just a very well done version of what ARPGs are now. The genre's too established, so there's not going to be this new level of, wow, this game has all these redefining features. That can't happen anymore. Like, we already know what ARPG genre is. We already know what people like in ARPGs. And now all the companies are just trying to get a good mix of all the things that people want in a playable, replayable version of the game that people like. It's the same thing with Last Epoch. Look, I liked Last Epoch. I was sponsored by them too. I actually have another dev interview with them coming up. I like the guys, and I'm in their corner. I hope they do well. But people were saying the same thing about Last Epoch being the new biggest thing in the airport. It's like, no game is going to do that. Like, it doesn't matter what company comes out with an ARPG. No company is going to come out with a new ARPG that redefines everything, that's the new best thing, and then everyone copies it again. Like, it's already a genre that's been flushed out. We know what people want out of the ARPGs, and now every company is just trying to deliver what people already want. But unless I'm mistaken, I don't think we're going to see a new groundbreaking ARPG that brings 50 new million different things into it that people never even thought of before. Like, it's been out a while now. This genre has been figured out. It's the same thing with MMOs. People are always trying to talk about, oh, we can't wait for the new latest MMO. Like, I would love for the MMO to be redefined. MMO are my favorite genres. I would love to have another World of Warcraft style thing to come out and like redefine the genre. That's not going to happen. Like, I got to admit that to myself. It's not going to happen. And all the companies that say they are going to do it are selling $40,000 spaceships in a game that's going to take 30 years to design, and by then the tech will be so much elevated that AI could have made the game in 15 minutes. Like, these genres have already been figured out. We already know what people want out of the genres, and now the companies are just cashing out by making new versions of the games within that genres. It's like RTS. If we think about RTS, do you guys really think that a company is going to come out with an RTS game that's so completely different and new and with concepts that have never been thought about and so well implemented with it? No. The genre's been figured out. The genres die when the innovation is completed within that genre. RTS is a dead genre, right? You got MOBAs, which is kind of becoming a dead genre. People already know what MOBAs are. Everyone came out with 50 different MOBAs to try to max them out. The MOBAs have been maxed out. RTS has been maxed out. First-person shooters are getting to the point of being maxed out. Now people are just min-maxing like movement and the guns and all that, but it's a genre that's been figured out. All these different genres are getting figured out. And these companies can't just come out there and be like, you know what? Here's a take on first-person shooters that you've literally never seen before. Like, the genres have been out long enough and the tech's been around long enough that everyone's already got these figured out. The only thing they can do is take all the things they know people like about each one of these genres and makes the absolute best variant of it they can. That's what's going to happen. Bad take, to be honest. Well, then explain one genre that has a company coming out with something that's never been seen before in any of the genres that have been out for 30 years. It might be possible, but maybe not with the teams that are currently alive. It's always a smoothing out, a little bit better version of it. These massive innovations haven't happened for years. And if they were going to happen, it would have happened in the last 10 years in these different genres. They don't really exist. People have to come out with new genres in order to actually have these redefining. Elden Ring is a good example of one. However, that is a good example of one. I agree with that. I think that's a lot of the reason people are like dissatisfied with gaming these days, is the genres were being created before. Now they're already created, and everybody has to now min-max each one of the genres. So we're seeing 5 to 10% incremental increases in the quality of games within each one of these genres. So I don't, that's why it's like, I sit here and think about the fact is like, okay, like as somebody who's a game reviewer or a critic or whatever the fuck you want to call me, it's really easy for me to go up and just be like, these games suck. Like this one fucking sucks, this one fucking sucks, and this one fucking sucks. But that's because they're 5%, 6% better than the previous version of the game. And everyone wants to see 50, 60% better because we're used to 50, 60, 70, 80% better versions of games when the genres were brand new and people were figuring out everything. But now these genres have been capped. And so the formula, someone has to randomly change the entire formula of what makes it good. And then people try to do that, like No Rest for the Wicked says that's what they're trying to do. So they go out and they try to change up the genre a little bit. And then, and then there's issues with it where people are like, I don't know, man, like this isn't really what I came to the genre for. It's really, really, really hard, I think, for any company, any team, no matter who, to come up with something in a min-max genre and have a completely redefining thing. And when they try to do it, it takes them 30 years. It gets harder and harder and harder and harder to do as the iterations of the game came out. If D2 to D3 was as big of a jump as D1 to D2, then D3 to D4 would have been an even harder jump to make. Think about that. If D3 was twice as good as D2, and there was a huge jump that everyone was like, holy fuck, that's insane, then D4 to get that same level of jump is even more harder to do because you're ramping how sick these games have to be, because you're going to want everything that the previous game has, and you're going to have an insane amount of extra. I get your point. I just don't think that's actually what people want. I think people want a good game to play, and I think often good games to play can be just as good as the previous and people will be satisfied with them, but I'm saying groundbreaking things. I agree with you that if someone comes out with a good game, people will play it and like it. I think Last Epoch is an example of this. I think people liked Last Epoch. People don't really go around and shit on Last Epoch. People like the game mostly. However, people stopped playing the game after a certain point and were just like, yeah, I liked it, and moved on. Right? And they'll go back to it and play it again. So people do want games that they like to play. I 100% agree with you. But people don't say that Last Epoch is a reinvention of ARPGs and is a genre-defining thing. It's not. It's just another good game. But anyway, that's my point. That's how I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because I look at these games and I think, why am I dissatisfied or feel like gaming got worse? I don't think it got worse. I think it got maxed out. Like, I think for what we have, it's been almost maxed out. And then from there, games have literally been worse than the predecessors. I agree, but also innovation is harder these days. It's like the iPhone, okay? Going from flip phone to iPhone was a huge jump. iPhone 1 to iPhone 2, not as big of a jump. 2 to 3, not as big of a jump. 4 to 5, not as big of a jump. And now what, 13 to 14 is a new fucking camera. Like, that's all it is. I think it's the same thing with games, dude. You know what? I think you're right from the major production perspective. That's exactly how AAA games treat game dev cycles these days. I don't think that's all what people want, which is probably why they're just bombing lately. I think people want what they remember. I think people want to log into a game and be hyper impressed and be like, holy shit, this is better than I was expecting. I don't think people want to buy a game and just think, I'm okay with it. I think people want to buy a game and have an experience that for them is memorable and not revolutionary every time, but people want to buy a game and have a memory that stays with them 15 years like they did with games when they were a kid. That's what people want. And that doesn't happen, so people feel disappointed because they remember games having these mind-blowing moments of shit they've never seen before. But now, when the game comes out, you've seen everything in the game. And I'm not talking because you watched the trailer. I'm saying because you've seen it in other games. So part of that's on us as the audience of realizing that. And part of that is on the fact that the companies can't deliver major expectations. And part of that is the fact that the curve of gaming goes like this. It ramps up exponentially, getting better, then the tech curve starts to flatline a little bit. I think that's part of it too. I don't think it's entirely fair to shit on every company in the world. They all can't deliver. Someone could do it. But I think it's a bit of all of it.